It took amazing amounts of love and energy to make this video happen. All kinds of planning, preparation, travel, and all the energy that goes on within a video studio, all the people working to make a simple clip look presentable. It's just amazing. So we're all professionals here, and professionals buy this product. They don't copy it and give it to their friends, because this is the way we live our life. Please be honest and don't copy this product. Thank you. Hello, my name is Jerry Bergonzi, and I'm here today to talk saxophone. Some of the things we'll be discussing are sound, technique, equipment, articulations, fingerings for multiphonics, fingerings for altissimo, exercises to practice to develop a sound. And we're going to be talking about a lot more than that as well. We'll be doing demonstrations and also having some performances of some tunes. I hope you have fun and you can join in and try these things as we go. The first thing I'd like to talk about is sound. How do you get a good sound? what is a good sound? Does everybody get the same sound? Are they supposed to get the same sound? Well, I hope not. And the wonderful thing about a saxophone is it's capable of getting so many different sounds. Everybody I listen to sounds different. And why do they sound different? It's not only the sound, it's the articulation. They say if you clip off the articulations of instruments in an orchestra, for example, it's hard to distinguish which instrument is being played. And I think the same is true with saxophone. And I think what gives you your ID is the articulation as well as the sound. That being said, you need to hear a good sound. How do you hear a good sound? Well, if you never heard a saxophone, I guess it would be pretty difficult to hear a good saxophone sound. But of course, we listen to the great masters of the saxophone. And we listen to them play and say, oh, that's a sound I'd like to have. Or this one, I'd like to have that sound. Or this, I'd like to have a little of that. Or a little of this. So we emulate their sounds. That being said, it helps to have good equipment, the right embouchure, maybe the right teacher. So all of those things help to get a good sound. What I'll be talking about today is my perspective of all those things. Am I correct? Maybe not. I think that everybody who gets a good sound gets it in their own way. They do something that might be a little different. So these are the things that I think about. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the embouchure. I'd like to think about getting the reed to make the sound, which is why getting a good reed is important. I use Rico reeds. I've used Rico reeds my whole life. Rico products, sometimes it's Laveau's, sometimes it's regular orange box Ricos, Rico Select, sometimes a Rico Reserve, but that's the reed I use. Does that mean that's the only reed to use? No. Whatever reed works for you, fine. But having a good reed is very important. The first thing I'd like to talk about is just taking the neck and mouthpiece. So I'm playing the note, an E concert on that. And I'm trying to get that neck and mouthpiece to sound like a saxophone. Is that possible? Maybe not. There's not a lot of tubing. But in my mind, I'm thinking I want to get that to be as resonant as possible. And I'm not inhibiting this reed. I'm letting it vibrate. So I could put it out the side of my mouth. Even upside down. After I do that, sometimes you'll find that maybe in the middle is the worst sound. For some students, they've learned some weird habits, and they might, in the middle, their sound is inhibited because they've learned how to do this strange embouchure, that strange embouchure, or whatever. So I'm just trying to get that reed to vibrate. So again, for the tenor saxophone, neck and mouthpiece, E concert. For the alto, A flat concert. For the baritone, F concert. Neck and mouthpiece. So how do I keep that reed from vibrating? You blow air in there. So I call it the no embouchure embouchure. And what I mean by that is I'm not inhibiting that reed from vibrating. How do I inhibit the reed from vibrating? By this muscle right here, because if I go, and I'm bunching up this chin muscle, I'm killing the reed. I'm killing the vibrations. That's number one. Arch enemy number one for the sound. Arch enemy number two is the lip, bottom lip. Even though I place it over the bottom teeth, and I put my teeth on the mouthpiece, although you could use a double embouchure and put your top lip over your top teeth. For me, I don't. I have done that in the past. But for me, I just get that a sheath of lip over the bottom teeth, kind of like this. And you can see red showing. Excuse me the way I talk right now. You can see red showing. And if I pull the mouthpiece out, watch what happens. It's the same. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing, and like this, and like this. The way you look in the mirror, say, wow, check me out. And you say, wow, I was born with the perfect embouchure. Look at that. That's it. Nothing weird. I'm trying to keep this flat because I don't want to smile. I don't want to do this. Just try to keep it flat because I don't want the bottom lip to wrap around that reed until the vibrations, and you can get a close-up to this and watch what happens. Now I'm going to wrap my lip around it. Watch what happens to the sound. You can see my lip going around that reed, and sometimes I'm shaping the sound like that. But for the most part, I'm just keeping that super relaxed. Sometimes I'll even blow air out the sides. I'll blow air out the left side. The right side. The top. With my gap in my teeth, it's hard for me to do that, but so I'm getting the reed to vibrate. If I do this, I'm killing the reed. How can I possibly get a good sound? I'm letting the mouthpiece and reed do the work, particularly the reed. Now, the mouthpiece you choose makes a significant difference. If I use a small chamber, high baffle mouthpiece, now for some of you that don't know what that is, there's a right behind the tip rail, if I could have a little picture right here, right behind this tip rail is the baffle. And if that's real high, you get a really trebly sound. And right in here is the chamber. This is the table. These are the rails. So every mouthpiece is different. You could go out and buy the same brand mouthpiece, the same size. Everyone's going to be different. I've never tried two mouthpieces that are identical, although some of them can be very consistent. This is a large chamber, early Babbitt Autolink with a baffle, and I put my reed right up on the tip rail. So if you guys could take a picture of that, I might see just a bit of black on top of this. Now, I like a medium or thick tip rail. Again, one man's poison's another man's medicine. Some people like a thin tip rail. I like to have this reed vibrate up against that tip rail, and it creates some substance and some depth in the sound for me. And in that case, if the reed is stiff, I take the reed down. Too stiff, I might take it down ever so slightly down this way. If it's too hard, if it's too soft, I might pull it up this way. I'm talking about the most tiny little measurements. I mean, maybe a 64th of an inch would run the whole gamut. So if I put my ligature on right now, and where do I put my ligature? That's a great question, Jerry. Where? Uh, for me, on this mouthpiece, I put it right here. As a matter of fact, I even put some fingernail polish right here, a little blue fingernail polish, because that's where this mouthpiece and reed respond with this ligature. So now with other mouthpieces, sometimes you'll see the ligature way back. Sometimes you'll see it way up. I usually see pictures of Stan Getz, the mouthpiece was way forward. Dexter Gordon way back this way. How do you know? Trial and error. You have to try this and see, okay, I get this reed on. Let me put the ligature up front. Let me put it behind. There's a sweet spot. You'll find there's a sweet spot where that ligature really seems to work the best, or your reed works the best with the ligature. Now, that being said, if you have a short-facing mouthpiece, now a facing is where the reed starts to break away from the mouthpiece, where the mouthpiece does this and the reed stays straight. If it's short, that means it's starting closer to the tip of the mouthpiece. If it's a short facing, you tend to want to put the ligature further back. If it's a long facing, maybe further up in front if it's too long. Now, of course, in the market today, there's so many different ligatures and so many great ligatures. Some that come to mind are the Francois Louis ligature, the ligature that Rico makes. They're all great. There's so many great ligatures. And sometimes you get just a Selmer ligature, whatever works on your mouthpiece. You got to try a few. They're all different. How much mouthpiece should I put in my mouth? Again, that is determined by how long your facing is. Sometimes you'll see a person with a long facing and they have a lot of mouthpiece in. Sometimes you'll see a guy right at the tip of the mouthpiece. Whatever works for you. For me, you can see where my teeth are right here. My teeth marks. I'm not putting a lot of pressure. So when I play that, check out my embouchure when I pull the mouthpiece out. Am I doing? No, none of that. I'm letting the reed vibrate. Sometimes, if my ears can take it, because it gets pretty loud, I'll take the mouthpiece off the neck and just play a scale and see how flexible I can be, how tight, how loose I can be, and what notes come out. Now that note, blah, that's the note I had with the neck and mouthpiece. So I'm above that, I'm below it. So I'm doing these exercises just a little bit, and it's really loud. So a little goes a long way. You do a little of that, a couple of times, you get used to like, well, how much pressure can I use? How can I keep that reed from caving in? Because I don't want to go and just completely have the reed go up and stop the air, or also I don't want to lose the sound by being too loose. So all of those things make a significant difference. Jazz players are typically push their mouthpiece in further than they need to, and they come down to the pitch. Whereas if I put my mouthpiece out like here, then I have to pinch up to the pitch. So I want to get the perfect amount of pressure that I need where I don't have to use pressure to get the correct pitch. Now, if I have my mouthpiece in too far, then particularly the high notes are all sharp, because the distance between here and with these tone holes, the high F, the high E, that's really, it's not that far. So you can really feel it when you're in too far. When you're in, you can feel it up here on the top end of the horn more so than the bottom end of the horn. So, and if you pull out too far, then you have to pinch to get those high notes in tune. So I try to play the whole horn like it's middle C, where I don't adjust for, or I don't adjust theoretically for different registers. I'm trying to play the whole horn like it's relaxed. So if I play I'm playing the whole horn like it's one embouchure. So when I do that, I'm not trying to make the subtle adjustments, of course, but I'm trying to make the least amount of adjustment as possible. One of the exercises that I do as a barometer of how much pressure I should have is where I play octaves, and I go from the top octave down an octave lower without using the octave key. And at this time, I'd like to have my colleague, Brian Levy, come up and we'll demonstrate this technique. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Brian Levy, and he's going to demonstrate some of these exercises that I was talking about. We're trying to get the right pressure between the octaves so you use the least amount of pressure you have to get the top octave. We're going to start with a middle F, where we play the F that usually would have an octave key. And I'm going down that octave without articulating the lower octave, just straight down to the octave. Try that, Brian. Right, so you get the least, this is what you don't want. Let me do it incorrectly for you. So you can hear, I call that the nosedive effect. I want to get that lower octave. So it's almost the same. I'm using the same amount of pressure. So that's a great barometer to figure out how much pressure do I need for the middle octave. That's why I'm playing the saxophone like the whole thing is middle C. Brian, try that. Let's try this.
Can I ask you a question about that? What is changing inside to make it go down? What should I be thinking about? Should I
Thank you so
change
much.
the tightness of the embouchure, the air? What are you going to...
This is what I'm doing. I'm getting the sides of my lip. I'm concentrating on this to be even looser right here. And if you get a close-up of me, you'll see that right here is going to get even looser. from F all the way down to B flat, getting, without the octave key, incidentally, and I'm just concentrating and getting this to be evolution. It just goes right down to the lower octave. Try that. That's a great exercise. That's the kind of exercise you could do every day as a warm-up. It just gets you kind of in tune, like how much pressure should I use? And it might take a while. Sometimes I'll have a really excellent saxophone player as a student, and they seem to get the nosedive effect because they are changing their embouchure for the lower octave and the higher octave. Brian, I heard you earlier warming up, and you played that C, F, G up and down the horn. Let me hear you play that again, because it sounded so wonderful. Now, if you take a look at his embouchure, it's not changing. Let's do that again. Now let's do it soft. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
When I grew up, I had a great saxophone teacher. I started on clarinet when I was 8, and I think when I was 11, I had an alto, and 13, I started on tenor. But at 14, I had a great saxophone teacher. His name was Joseph Viola. He taught at Berklee School of Music, and he taught me all kinds of things that it took me years to realize what he was, all the knowledge he was bestowing on me. And having said that, later on, when I was around 30, I took 3 lessons from Joe Allard. And all the things he said were completely the opposite of Joe Viola. Joe Viola used to tell me to keep my tongue low in my mouth, like, ah. Joe Allard said, keep your tongue high, like, ing, Disney, Disney, ding, ding, ding. Joe Viola had me tongue further back in my tongue, maybe a ½ inch back. Joe Allard said, use the tip of the tongue. I can do all of the above. And when I'm playing, actually, I don't think about any of that. I do know that when I'm shaping notes, like thinking of vowels or thinking of playing on the high register, that my tongue does move. And when I want to get the sound to open up like this, my tongue does flatten out a little bit. So I think that when you hear a sound and you try to duplicate that sound, you have to really pay attention to what your body is doing to get that sound. You can't just read a book and say, okay, I'm going to do this and do this. And if your body's doing all the subtle things that no one can tell you, but there are some general rules that that other people might get a great sound and may not be using at all. But I think that I'm tonguing the tip of the reed right here. So my tongue looks like did, or did like that. So I've seen other people tongue on the bottom of the reed. I don't know how they do it. Every time I try it, it sounds, I'll demonstrate. I sound like a duck, you know, but if I tongue the tip of the reed, so I'm tonguing the tip of the reed. And my tongue is standing like ever so close to that reed. so close that I could put the tongue on the reed as I play. And you'll hear it, almost like I'm saying the word the. And sometimes I'll articulate like that. I'll keep the tongue on the reed. And when my tongue comes off the reed, that's when the note jumps up. So I'm going to do this in slow motion. So my tongue is on the reed. I could play a whole scale with my tongue on the reed. That's the tongue on the reed. Of course, it dampens the sound because the reed's not vibrating as much. But sometimes, when I'm playing like, my tongue is doing so many different things, a computer could not keep up with it. It's too quick. It's so close. Imagine a computer trying to duplicate what the tongue does when it says, "How you doing today?" Isn't it? It's a joke. How you doing today? But what a great day out. The weather's fine. Blue skies. All the things a tongue does. It does the same thing when you're playing. It doesn't do one thing. It doesn't stay in one place. It does so many different things. So sometimes, of course, jazz articulations, when you first learn how to do jazz articulations, it's just tonguing the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm tonguing the upbeat. Sometimes I want to tongue the downbeat and bury the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, well, that sounds kind of strange. But if I'm playing a thing like, sometimes I'm tonguing every note. Sometimes I don't want to have any of that. I don't want any tongue. I want the notes to pop the time. So I'm having the air pop the time. Do you want to get just one sound? I'm thinking about that. Sometimes I want to get a subtone. So I'm doing all kinds of different sound qualities in there. Sometimes I want a real full sound. Sometimes I want. Not to mention vibrato. sometimes I'm thinking of opera when I'm playing. I'm thinking, oh, totally wide open, like. So I'm just like thinking I'm getting a wider vibrato, or even wider. So somewhere in that vibrato, that wave, I'm thinking is a sweet spot. Sometimes I want to get it wide, narrow, fast. A lot of times I think, okay, I'm going to practice vibrato. Like 1 second. Here's 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 waves. 3. I'll put vibratos on. How I do the vibrato is with my jaw. I'm not moving my lips. I could do a diaphragm vibrato, and sometimes I will do a little bit of a diaphragm vibrato. For the most part, it's jaw. So my teeth are on this in just a little bit of a wave. And in that, I mentioned this before, in that wave, you can just practice by going like real deep. And you can get a sweet spot in that wave where the tone really resonates. And that's another great reason to practice vibrato. A lot of times I'm thinking, well, this saxophone is just a way to make some different sounds. Like if I didn't know anything about it, I'm just going. Just like wiggling my fingers around, looking for some different, options, but subtones. Sometimes I'll just practice like playing free like that and trying to get some different nuances. But vibrato, key. No vibrato. That's a nice vibrato. I enter the vibrato in the middle of a note. Sometimes I want to play like really light tongue. My tongue is so light I can play. So light, it's just right on the reed. Sometimes I'll bury notes, a whole group of. I'm putting the tongue off the reed, on the reed, all over the place to try to get some different zones going on. Overtones. You know, I can play this overtone and go, etc. And I'm just, you know, dealing. But a lot of times when a student will come in and practice a lot of overtones and the sound gets tight and yucky. Why? They're killing the reed. So when I practice overtones, I'll take a B flat scale and I'll make it come out an F scale, which is an octave and a fifth higher. And to ensure that I'm not using a lot of pressure, I'll actually get the note. Etc. And I'll lift the note down a half step or a quarter tone, whatever, and so I'm not using a lot of pressure to get that overtone. Sometimes I'll even play like, I'll try to improvise using on that series instead of. I'll just sit there and like just goof around and play that overtone series. Now, if I go to the other overtone series higher than that, instead of the F, if I go to B flat, I lose it. It's not going to happen. The overtone series stops. Sometimes I'll get alternate fingerings. I can play a high D. I'll play a note like that. If I want to pop it, I'll go. That kind of an effect. But I'll use that, a lot of those things, so the note comes out a fifth higher than your fingering. So if I play a D or an A, and I drop down to a D, or B flat, I'll drop down to an E flat. B to E. Sorry about that. So I'm just going a fifth, and I'm going above to get a different sound effect. Sometimes I'll just keep my right hand on, and I'll play A, D. When I get to G, it does the overtone. So that's a good way to practice overtones, so you don't tighten up. And you're getting looser and looser and looser. To get the overtones, that is. A lot of times when I'm playing my palm keys, D, E flat, E, and F, or even from C, I'll keep my right hand down. For tenor, I'll put D, all these three fingers, and low C. For alto, it's no low C. So I'll play the high C. And I A-B it. I try to get that note to sound the same way as when I have my right hand down. Intonation-wise, it really locks in the intonation. Well, sometimes when I'm playing a bell, it's like, I'll keep my right hand down. I like the sound more. There's more tube. It's more resonant. Giving away all our trade secrets. Here's another trade secret. Middle C. Now, so, you know, you hear all the great players, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Stitt, and Train. They'll play low B, invent this B, and get the C. So that's a completely different sound. Another one, I'll play middle B, and I'll play low B again, but I'll vent the A. So that's another one, another alternative fingering for B. For D, sometimes, of course, the Lester Young middle D is he's just playing this D, not this D. Sometimes I'll play D. I'll do like add them both. The middle D plus side D. I'll drop down the octave from high D and put middle D, but leave the high D open. I might even play the E flat with all the notes down. Another note that I find fun to do is I'll play middle G and I'll play low C without the F. And I can get this to do a little trill, a minor third. Now, if I do the same thing on B flat, I'll play B flat, but I'm going to play E flat and vent the G. Key is sticking, but I have the magic thing for it. I have my pad stick. Good friend of mine, Tom Goodwin, makes these things. I never leave home without him. So that's B flat. Sometimes I'll play high F. I'll put the whole right hand down. Kind of locks in like that Stanley Tarantine F. Sometimes I'll do the same thing on E, but I'll put everything down. I'll play E and I'll put the whole right hand down, 4-key that is. These are all different sounds you can get for expression. You have a whole vocabulary of different fingerings, alternate fingerings, to get, sometimes it messes with the intonation, sometimes you use it that as a part of your expression. Sometimes I'll use all of these things in the middle of tunes. Sometimes it's very subtle. Other times it's really easy to recognize. You listen to the great players play like Ben Webster and Sonny Stitt and all the great masters. They have such an array of these things. You say, wow, how did he get that note to sound like that? It's incredible. Not to mention, of course, Dexter, Sonny Rollins, John Coltrane, Stanley Tarantine, and Hank Mobley, and Charlie Parker, Lester Young, and Coleman Hawkins, and so on and so forth. Not to mention alto players, right? Cannonball, Paul Desmond, Lee Konitz, Charlie Mariano. I know I'm leaving people out, and that's terrible. And not to mention all the young masters, the Mike Breckers, Bob Bergs, Dave Lehmans, Joe Lavanos, Mark Turners, and Chris Potters, and the Seamus Blakes, and the list goes on and on. But out of all the saxophone players in the world, I'm one of them. Happy to be. Speaking of technique, for me, getting a good technique is, doing the same things over and over and over again. I never heard anybody with a good technique who hasn't put in the time. It's just, there's no tricks. Having a good teacher, the right embouchure, the right equipment, that all helps. But it's just a matter of time. You have to put the time in. Some guys might be more natural than others. Of course, that's definitely true. But sometimes the person who might not be as natural gets further ahead. He puts more time into it. Bill Evans always said he felt that way about himself. And other musicians who put in more time than some of his natural friends, they got further ahead. I'll leave that topic of conversation for the jazz critics, or music critics. But there are things that are common sense. You practice the same things every day and you get really good at it. I used to practice a dozen scale sequences every day. Here's a scale sequence. Etc. And I practiced that in every key. I practiced going it back up, the opposite directions, or this one. So I would practice all those, a dozen of them. I had a dozen of them. Now that I know what I know now, I'd go back and do it completely different. I would take one pattern, one scale sequence, and I like the term modal sequencing it. So when I play it like this, I'm playing it in 4/4. But what if I did it in 3/8? I'll leave out a note. Etc. Or I could do it back up. So I'm doing that in 3/8. If I did it in 5/8, I'll add a note. If I did it in 6/8, I'm going to do 6 notes. So it could be, I'll do it real slow. That's in 6. I could go back up with that. I could do it in 7. I take all those same scale sequence exercise and practice it through all those time zones, and it makes your fingers do amazing things. It kind of breaks finger patterns. And when I hear some of the great players play, and they do all these twists and turns with their lines, their melodic lines, a lot of that is coming into play. That being said, a way to practice scales. I'll play one scale and keep changing one note in the scale so I can kind of lock into my fingers. Say I play G Lydian, and that goes from G up to, and I'm going to go up a ninth. And every time I play the scale, I'll change one note. I'll go from Lydian. Then I'm going to go to Ionian. Then I'm going to go to Mixolydian. Then I'm going to go to Dorian. Then I'm going to go to Aeolian, to Phrygian, Locrian, till finally I start the same scale at the beginning, down a half step, and I'm on Lydian again. So it'll sound like. Now I'm going to play G Ionian, going up from the root to the ninth. G Mixolydian. G Dorian. G Aeolian. G Phrygian. G Locrian. F sharp Lydian, or G flat Lydian. And I would continue that process till I did all these scales in all 12 keys. Now, not only could I do it that way, but I might take a couple of passes at every mode. That way I can really lock into my fingers which one is the lazy one, which one is, so I might go. So I'm doing it, I'll do it slow again. So I'm doing each one twice. I could do each one 3 times. So that's the long game of Monopoly. Now the short game is, instead of going up to the 9th, I'm just going to go to the 5th. When I go to the 5th, I won't be able to play all 7 modes. So I'll go Lydian. I'll do it, and I'll say it as I go along. I might even do a couple of passes on each one. Lydian, Ionian. That was Ionian or Mixolydian. This is Dorian. Phrygian. Locrian. Then I'm going to F sharp Lydian. Oh, that leads me to a great thing. How do I play B flat? Well, I'm so thankful Joe Viola said you have to use side B flat. Otherwise, you can get into the habit of using just the biz key. But I use, if I'm going from B to B flat, I'm using side B flat. If I'm going from B flat to B, I use side B flat. Not doing this. Some people even use 1 and 1. Flute players in general. So I'm going through all the modes like that, and I'm just trying to lock in my fingers. And I have to do that every day if I want to get some technique built up. Every day. It's like, you're going out jogging every day. It's just a calisthenic exercise. If you get it down, does it mean you're a better artist? Not necessarily. You might have a better technique. Doesn't mean you're saying more. But we need all the help we can get to express our human or our divine emotions. Another way you can do the same thing, and this is really a lot of fun, I call this downloading. I'm doing the same thing I do in eighth note, but I'm going to do it in triplet. So instead of going to the ninth, I'll go all the way up to the 13th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll do the same thing in Ionian. And I'll do all the modes like that. Now I'm going to download fives. If I go up 5, quintuplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go up to the 11th. So here's Lydian. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ionian. So those are fives. I would do the same thing with 1 week I'd practice this way, the next week I'd practice that way. So you're getting the same information, and you could start hearing different time zones. You're getting a big benefit from it. Huge. How about sevens? When I go to 7, I'm just going up to the octave. 2, 3, 4. Etc. So I'm practicing all my time zones like that. Another exercise I do is I'll take, this is another, to me, a download exercise. I'll take a simple scale, and I'll play a scale sequence in 4 notes. And then I'll do the same thing, but in 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And wherever I start from, if I start from A, I go A, G, F, E, D, C would be the, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th note, and that would be a downbeat again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I could do it backwards. Or I could do it this way. Or I could do that backwards. So I'm playing it in groups of 5. Or how about 7? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4. That's 7. Of course, it's difficult to hear that without a metronome. If you heard the click, you'd hear it where my downbeats are. I'm going to do that real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Could somebody out there clap, and they'll hear a, you guys all clap, and I'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. Great way to practice scales. Makes you think of time. So when I'm playing, I'm thinking of going to all of these zones. How do I keep my fingers? I want to keep my fingers slightly rounded. And again, I've seen my favorite players play like this. I've seen my favorite players play like this. I remember going to see Cannonball. His fingers, man, they were just, he'd play like, and they have a little twitch in them. They hardly ever left the keys. Same, go look at Charlie Parker on YouTube. Same thing. So I try to keep my fingers on the keys. That being said, I'm not that good at it. I've had students come in and they're great at it. I say, how did you learn how to do that? And they said, my teacher made me. So there you have it. I try to keep them rounded, and I don't want to have any wasted motion. So this knuckle right here doesn't do this. So it locks. That knuckle locks. It doesn't go and then dip, unlock. So I keep my fingers kind of locked like that, and that helps. Hey, Brian, you want to do that tune, the tune for Kenny?
Would love to.
Yeah, the ballad?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of people ask me who I listen to. And when I was younger, I had a regimen of people I listened to I wanted to learn how to play just like them. I had an agenda. That's the word I was looking for. An agenda to listen to this person. And 6 months would go by and say, oh man, I want to play like this guy. A year would go by and I'd want to learn how to play like this guy. And after a dozen guys, they all get jumbled up and it comes out like your voice. And you can't help get your own voice. When somebody calls you up on the phone and he says, hello, John. Hello, Jack. Within one word, you know who it is. Is it their tone? Yeah. It's their articulation, the way they attack the word, the way they don't attack the word, the way they mumble the word, whatever it is. Those things are uniquely your own. So it's great to listen to yourself and figure out what is uniquely your own. Of course, having said that, I think it's impossible to learn to be a great jazz saxophone player without listening to the greats. You just don't walk out of a cave one day and come up with your own stuff. You listen to people, and you listen and listen and listen. If I had to say, well, what's the most important thing a jazz student could do in practice, probably the first 10 on the list would be listen, 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 listen. After you get through that, doing that, listen some more. Some people say, well, transcribing is not good. Don't transcribe. I'm thinking to myself, if you listen, you're transcribing. What's the difference? When you write it down on paper, you're just analyzing it. You're learning how to play it. I say, oh yeah, he starts a lot of phrases on beat 2 end. Oh man, he uses a lot of flat fives on his dominant chords. He uses a lot of natural 13s on his minor chords. You start to understand things and qualify what you're hearing. So it doesn't hurt to write it down. But the most important thing is learning how to play it. If I said, okay, I got 2 guys in a room here. In 3 hours, I want you to learn how to play this particular solo. Maybe the quickest way would be, okay, I'll play along with the solo until I finally get it. Maybe the other guys say, man, I'll just transcribe it and play it over and over again. As long as you put your time in, you're going to get it. But you develop your own voice. It's the only way not to is when you deny it. You deny, I don't have a voice. I have a friend. He transcribes a solo every week. He's probably transcribed every John Coltrane solo. And people always say, hey man, you sound just like John Coltrane. He said, yeah. What's wrong with that? And he said, don't you want to sound like yourself? He says, no, I want to sound like John Coltrane. You know? So, hey man, whatever makes you happy, you know? But not to deny your own voice is important. So in years of practice, after you put in your time and energy, you have to learn how to listen to yourself. You're in your imagination. You can shut your eyes and listen to yourself. A lot of times I'll practice sound like that. I'll shut my eyes. I'll think. I'll surround myself with pure white light. You can call it whatever you want. Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, Buddha consciousness, cool air, Moses consciousness, whatever. I picture that light permeating through my whole being, all my energy centers. And I'll see myself playing the saxophone, and I'll see myself getting a sound. And I'll try to hear that sound. I'll spend 5 minutes just thinking about what sound do I want? How warm is that sound? How embracing? How much does it take things in? How articulate is that sound? How expansive? How centered? How much does it project? How bright? How dark? How much treble? What overtones stick out? What color is the sound? Or what color is the sound downstairs? What color is the... I'll play all over the saxophone and play long tones without the instrument. Then I'll pick up, I'll do the same practicing mentally as if I had the instrument without the instrument. So that exercise that I just did where I'm playing the scales in all the modes, I'll do that in my mind. And wherever I flub up in my mind is exactly where I flub up with the saxophone. There's no difference. This is a figment of our imagination. This exists here first. It exists here first, here, and here. Whatever you think, you visualize, you create this life. Before I got a saxophone, I had to think saxophone. So I'm thinking first, I'm creating this. I'm creating these melodies. And if I practice mentally, I can get just as much technique as if I practice physically. Matter of fact, sometimes I think I get more because I don't get enamored with my sound. And I can't think about dinner, the fact that I have a gig tomorrow or I have a student later in the day. I have to practice mentally. I have to be there now, present tense, present tense. And I keep calling back my consciousness if it gets, so I keep changing the station back to what I'm doing if it gets altered in any way. I don't fight the other station because that makes it stronger. Just kind of ignore it, let it do its thing, and I get to the matter at hand. That's practicing. It's focused, and it's fantastic for you. They had a basketball team split in half. One side practiced foul shots physically, the other side practiced mentally. And I forget what it was, 2 or 3 weeks' time, they both improved the same amount. So there's no difference. I think this is especially important for maybe trumpet players and people who have can't keep their chops up for all those hours. So again, you have to listen to your role models. Myself, I listen a lot to singers. Their phrasing, the way they sing a melody. And when I'm playing, of course, I'm trying to sing. That's what we do on the saxophone. That's what turns us on. It's singing. It's getting a sound. Again, earlier I mentioned that sometimes I try to play operatically. Sometimes I'm playing like just so soft, or I'm just trying to shape my notes. Sometimes I'm trying to put a vibrato on a note. Sometimes I'm lipping it down. Just getting notes, trying to learn how to sing them. Another thing that comes to mind when I'm playing, depending on the rhythm section, depending if I have the luxury to play with dynamics, that's the key. I mean, contrast. Sometimes to get somebody's attention, you have to play with dynamics. You play one dynamic range, it gets kind of boring. Sometimes when the rhythm section is really blasting and playing so loud you can't hear yourself, I think it's a great idea to try to play softer. So they might think, wait a minute, I don't have a saxophone, let's tone down a little bit, because there's only so much we can do. It's an acoustic instrument. But dynamics are key. And it's great to practice with a full sound, full-bodied, it's great to practice soft and still be full. And I always think that loud and full or big are two different things. I hear saxophone players who have a big sound, but it's not loud. I know saxophone players who have a loud sound, but it's not big. That's something to think about. A lot of times I'll try to get a note and play it like, I'll make them louder, soft. An exercise, I could get an exercise like I'll play a note as loud, and I'll count back in my mind. 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. And the opposite. And I'll do that all over the horn. I'd like to talk about another subject. What's the first thing I do when I take out a horn out of the case? You know, how do I warm up? Do I warm up? You know, I'll play a couple of long tones all over the horn. I might play middle C, low C, high C, low A, middle A, and I just play a few things and just get a sensation of the air going through the horn, the air, the spirit vibrating that reed. And that's how I warm up. Everybody has their regimen, though. I hear certain players, they play this particular scale up and down the horn. And that's whatever your thing is. There's no magic formula. Multiphonics are a tool that modern saxophone players use today. You can hear John Coltrane on harmonique and lots of on his ballad playing. Sometimes you'll hear some multiphonics. They're a fingering that will give you more than one note. Sometimes these notes that you get are a chord. Sometimes it's an aggregate of notes that sounds really kind of non-tonal, but they're great effects. The first one I'd like to talk about is I'll play finger B flat with the biz key, and I'll finger high E. Now, if I play A and do E flat, it comes down a half step. If I finger A flat and do D, it goes down another. That's just G. Now, here's a couple more. I'll finger low C sharp with the octave key, and I'll vent F. So here's low C sharp. Now I just switch these two fingers, F, and I'll put F down and vent F sharp. Sometimes in the middle of a line, I might play something like that. So that's like an effect that I get. Sometimes I'll do low E flat and vent the A, low B flat, and vent the D. No, I'll vent the D in B flat, side B flat. I'll play low B flat, vent the low C. I use those with caution as an effect in the middle of the line. Things like that. It's modern language. There's whole books on this stuff. It's amazing. You could spend your whole life just mastering multiphonics. I'd like to talk about altissimo now, and some altissimo fingering is the one I use, which not necessarily the best. There's books on this that are fantastic. I can't think of any of them. And for me, I always learn by rote. Somebody shows me a fingering, and I pilot it and say, oh, yeah, that fingering. So this is the way I play F sharp, like this, high fork, this, the F key, and side B flat. Another way to play it is this, and so either way. For G, I take these off and just have this inside B flat. Or I do 1, 3, and 6. For G sharp, this definitely is not the best one. It's the one I use because it's the easiest to finger. It's 2 and 4. A better sounding one maybe is 1, 3, 4, and side C. And another one yet is 2, 3, and 5. But I like 2 and 4. For A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B flat, I play 3, 4, and 5. For B, I add side D. E flat, I add side E flat for high C. I put high E down for C sharp. And it's like I'm playing high D all the way to high F, and that goes from B flat all the way to high D. And I have a choice whether I can leave this on or take it off. I kind of leave it on because I have more tube sound. Higher than that, here's D sharp. It's the same as G sharp. I do 2 and 4. E, I do 1 and 3. And then F, I add 1, 3, 4, 6. One, so that was high F. Are these the correct fingerings? I have no idea. But they're the ones I use. And some of my students use them. And alto's different, baritone's different, soprano's different. And altissimo is an evolution. When I was a kid, nobody played altissimo. There was one person, his name was Sam Donahue. I think he played for the Stan Kenton band. He would play What's New way upstairs and play the whole all altissimo. One day I had a student who came in, and he played Donnelly on the alto, an octave above where it's written. So he would start on E above high F and play the whole head without missing a note. When he did that, my altissimo became 300% better. Why? He broke all my boundaries mentally. I didn't think it was possible. When he did that, I said, wow, that's possible? Unbelievable. So, all things are possible. So when you listen to a great player play altissimo, and there's so many today, that it helps the way you play altissimo. It's just going to help you. It almost is like direct transference. You listen to it. Sometimes I like the sound of certain altissimo fingerings more than others, and depending on my phrase, I'll use a particular, like sometimes I'll play C like, sometimes I'll play, sometimes I'll play B, sometimes I'll play, sometimes I'll play, sometimes I'll play G sharp like that actually. But a lot of times it doesn't come out. So I have different fingerings that I use depending on the melody that I'm going to play with it. It's all a work in progress. There's tons of alternate fingerings you can use. You work it out and see which works the best for you. Another technique that I use sometimes is octave displacement. I'll play a line, a simple line like, and in the middle of the line, I'll displace the octaves. So I'm jumping from one octave to the next. Another thing that I'll practice for octave displacement is I'll take 5 notes, any 5 notes. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play those 5 notes over and over again. So I'm getting more than one octave to come out. So I'm getting notes to pop out in different octaves. I'll play the same 5 notes. One time, it'll come out in different places. So all of these things, skipping, octaves, sometimes one other device that I'll use, I'll play the saxophone without the octave key and try to get both octaves. Sounds like my saxophone's broke. So that's a nice effect. Do I want to use these effects all the time? No, it's art. I mean, I want to create beauty. Sometimes ugly beauty, that would come in maybe. But it's all in the hands of the artist. Those are all the things that a modern saxophone player uses. A lot of these things are really conceptual. I mean, it's just like this thing's just a noise machine. I might go, I'm just making noises. Sometimes I'll scream at the same time I'm playing. And I'm screaming up there, and the note, it breaks the wave, and the note gets contorted somehow, So here's a regular sound. I'm singing in there, whatever. Sometimes I try to sing the same pitch, but a high note. And I try to do it the least amount as possible, just so I break the wave. I'd like to demonstrate some different like sounds, sonic sounds, like nuances, subtones, full sounds, alternate fingerings, maybe even a multiphonic or two if I can remember to do it, and playing with a rhythm section and against the rhythm section on a tune called Table Stakes. 1, 2, So I'm trying to demonstrate using different sounds, playing with him, playing against him, playing with the rhythm section like that. And I could, of course, I'm playing a duet, so I don't want to play like too forcefully. I could, you know, so I have a lot of leeway. I can play subtones, and I'm playing motifs and just trying to carry them forth. To me, jazz is an evolution. It keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. And it evolves with the times. When I hear somebody play, you can almost tell the consciousness from which they're playing from. You know, I think it's so spiritual to play music. It's such a gift. It's jazz yoga. It's a way of life. And of course, everybody has to find out how they can support their jazz yoga lifestyle. But everybody finds their own niche. Some people are lawyers, doctors, carpenters, cab drivers, laborers, whatever, waiters, waitresses. But this music that we play gets us in a zone, gets us where we tune all our bodies up, our emotional body, our mental body, our spiritual body, our physical body. And that's where we play music from, in the present tense. That's the most amazing thing about this. We're not sitting there composing, come back the next day. It's right now, instant composition. And that's the beauty of it. And there's only one player, and he plays all the instruments, you know, and he has different names, but you have to believe in yourself, because you're part of the, I love that expression, you take one drop of water out of the ocean, it's not the same ocean. I kind of feel that way. Everybody's got something to say.